Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium eSports coverage of the second race of Season 2 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring, the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. Live tonight for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. James Pike, the voice of Podium eSports, alongside Taylor Burris, here for another night of Monday Night Racing action after we opened up our season at Talladega 1 week ago, and it was a wild race down in Alabama that we had, Taylor, but Kyle Busch took the honors in the end.
It certainly was a very exciting race, probably one of the best Talladega races on iRacing that I've ever got the chance to call. But now we head a little further west. We head to Las Vegas. And of course, when you put Las Vegas and Kyle Busch together, you know you're going to get a lot of excitement and possibly another chance for him to continue his streak with the Truck Series here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway tonight. So it's going to be exciting, but I'm pretty sure some other drivers are going to try to put an end to this streak here tonight.
If you're trying to think of combinations that play into Kyle Busch's hands, Las Vegas and the trucks has to be up there amongst all the combinations available in iRacing and maybe all of motorsports. Since they reconfigured the track here at Las Vegas in 2007, Kyle Busch has run 3 Truck Series races in real life here, and he's won all 3 of those races. So there certainly is a very tall order for the rest of the field to try and meet tonight. However, there are some new names that are involved in tonight's race that are making their season debuts that may give him a challenge. Most notably, Parker Kligerman of NBC Sports and Truck Series driver. He's in tonight's race and has a few Monday Night Racing victories on his resume from a year ago. Will Rogers, the NASCAR Xfinity Series driver and NASCAR Next member formerly, he's also in tonight's race as well. So not to say that Kyle Busch won't have some competition there. And then, of course, there's the man who finished runner-up to Kyle last Monday night and the defending champion of Monday Night Racing, Nick DeGroot, who has finished 1-2 with Kyle Busch 3 times now. That's more than any other combo in Monday Night Racing history. Kyle's won 2 of those races. Nick has won 1. He said last week that he has one to get back on Kyle Busch now, so we'll see what Nick can do tonight. As you take a look at the point standings, Kyle Busch, your winner. He's got 2 playoff points to his credit. When we get to that part of the season, he's also the first man to lock himself into the All-Star race, which you can see on Podium eSports February 1st, 2021. A big night of racing paired as part of Podium Speed Weeks that lead up to the Podium eSports Daytona 500 next year. DeGroot in second. A whole host of names going to try and work their way up the standings. As you take a look at the full season schedule and take a look at some of the events that will come up before the Christmas break. We'll head to Twin Ring Motegi in Japan with the IndyCar next Monday night. We have Michigan into the Super Late models. The old version of Phoenix from 2008 with the flat banking and the grass and the dog leg and the street stocks. We close out the pre-Christmas portion of Season 2 of Monday Night Racing with the modifieds at Martinsville, an old school combo to round out the 2020 slate on Monday Night Racing Action TV. Should be a lot of fun as we take a look at where we are in the world on Google Earth, and we are just north of the strip, maybe about 20-25 minutes or so, but this the West Coast capital of motorsports. Every single major form of racing comes through Las Vegas, whether or not it's the NHRA, whether or not it's short track racing with the bull ring, whether or not it's the World of Outlaws with the dirt track, whether or not it's NASCAR's National Touring Series with this 1.5 mile that was actually the final addition to the property here at Las Vegas. The 1.5 mile is the newest piece. It was built in 1996 and reconfigured in 2007 to provide us with the high banked fast speeds that you will see tonight when these trucks take to Las Vegas. It's now time for pre-race ceremonies, and we turn it over to our national anthem. And for the most famous words in motorsports, we turn to the founder and owner of TobyChristie.com, Toby Christie.
Hi, this is Toby Christie with TobyChristie.com. Honored to be the Grand Marshal for today's race. Drivers, start your engines!
It is now time to take a look at the starting grid for tonight's TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas, which sees DJ Cummings, one of the championship four from a season ago, post the fast time at 31.185 seconds to take top spot on the grid over Gary Sexton. Parker Kligerman with a fast run in qualifying two. Anthony Alfredo makes his debut tonight in Monday Night Racing. He's been involved across many events in iRacing over the course of the year. Michael Rossi, another championship four contender in the top 10, along with Will Rogers, the newcomer, and 2000 Xfinity Series champion Jeff Green. Taylor.
Starting in the 11th position will be Maxwell Kennan, followed by Joshua Slate in the 12th position. Owner of the Monday Night Racing Series, Ford Martin, will be starting in the 13th position. Also starting in 14th, Matthew Stallconnect will be starting there, followed by Joe Adge in 15th. Greg Stump from Off Access Paint will be starting in the 16th position, followed by NHRA champion Ron Capps in 17th. Josh Bilicki, NASCAR Xfinity and Truck Series driver, will be starting in 18th, followed by Preston Pardus, who's an SCCA driver and NASCAR Xfinity Series driver. Seth Eggert will round out your top 20.
Eggert recently celebrated a birthday as we roll on through the grid. Noah Lewis, Garrett Miller, Monday Night Racing veterans. As you roll on down through here, Brett Bedonia, and the hockey news is Stephen Ellis, starting 26. College Racing's Chris Rice there as well, along with CJ McLaughlin and Drew Welker rounding out the top 30.
31st will be Chris Wilner, followed by Mark Rabilis, and then Brett Baldeck in 33rd and 32nd. 34th will be Rob D'Amico, and 35th is Paul Stutton. Steve Avant will be starting in the 36th position. He'll be the last car to take time. And then Robbie Lyons, 37th, Kyle McFadden in 38th, and Jerry Jordan rounds out your 39-car field.
We take a look at the track facts for tonight's TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This is a 1.5 mile, 2.41 kilometer tri-oval that opened in 1996. 20 degrees of banking in the corners, 9 to 12 degrees of banking on the front and the back straightaway, and it is progressive, so you get more banking as you go further up the racetrack. Tonight we go for 100 laps, 150 miles, 241 kilometers in sim. It is the default day for iRacing, May 15, 2020. Right around 7:30 p.m. local time in sim in Las Vegas. We've got 3 green-white checkers if we need them. Air temp in sim is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Both of those will come down as we progress into the evening here at Las Vegas. Winds headed to the north at 2 miles an hour, humidity of 57%. We know that wind can be a factor on the back straightaway, but it's a little bit calmer than we normally see at Las Vegas. Might not be as much of a factor as we've seen it be when the National Touring Series come here in March in particular. But we're glad that you're with us here on Podium eSports as we get set for the second race of the season for Monday Night Racing. The TobyChristie.com 150 is underway, and DJ Cummings leads the field across the start-finish line and into turn 1 for the first time. Parker Kligerman wasting no time getting around Gary Sexton. He'll go to P2, Sexton to 3rd, Nick DeGroot 4th, Anthony Alfredo in 5th, and the first side-by-side battle belongs to Jesse Vaughn and Jeff Green in 8th and 9th.
I don't know about that, because here's the battle for the race lead as Parker Kligerman will dive to the inside of Cummings into the turns 3 and 4. Gary Sexton and Nick DeGroot will try to follow suit, moving DJ Cummings up to the top side of the racetrack now as they come across the start-finish line. Parker Kligerman will lead lap number 1 here at Las Vegas.
Kligerman wasting no time here. You figured the idea is get out front early and make sure nothing happens as Cummings continues to go backwards. One car, though, way up the racetrack, a little bit further back. I think it was Josh Slate who went sideways. Ooh. They do go sideways here on the back straightaway. Everybody fans out to avoid one spinning car, and I believe there were a few names that were sideways there, and I think it was indeed Will Rogers who might have been sideways coming out of turn 2.
Big save by Will Rogers. Has a little bit of damage to the rear end of that Chevy Silverado, but he'll still be able to keep it straight and got it back out on course. But right now he has dropped all the way back to 28th position. So a tough start early on for the driver of the number 65 Chevy.
They were very conveniently 3 wide for second just a moment ago, and look who's wasted no time trying to go after Parker Kligerman. It is the number 51 Big Machine Vodka Toyota Tundra of Kyle Busch, who has made his way to second in only a handful of laps and is already hot on the tail of Parker Kligerman for the race lead.
He is definitely putting the pressure on early on. If he'll look to the inside into turn 1, now dive to the outside of the racetrack. He'll take the high side and try to make it work, but here comes Anthony Alfredo as Kyle Busch shuts the door on him as they come off of turn 2. He'll look to the inside down the back straightaway.
Busch with a beautiful crossover to get underneath Kligerman on the exit of turn 2, and Anthony Alfredo will tuck in right behind the 51 machine as Kyle Busch goes to the point at Las Vegas in the TobyChristie.com 150 on lap number 4 of 100.
Kyle Busch picking up where he last left off at Talladega, leading here at Las Vegas once again. But Anthony Alfredo, Parker Kligerman going to take it 3 wide into turns 1 and 2 as they are going side by side. Gary Sexton as well as Nick DeGroot watches on it. They're still 3 wide off of turn 2 down the Nellis straightaway.
Immediate action for the race lead, 3 wide at Las Vegas, and you see this a lot on initial starts and restarts, but it is everything you could have asked for and then some to open up tonight's Monday night racing event at Las Vegas. As there goes Alfredo to block high as Sexton goes underneath the 51 for second.
Almost went 4 wide as they came across the line right now, but as we see, Parker Kligerman backs off. Anthony Alfredo, though, fighting hard on the inside to keep Kyle Busch and Gary Sexton behind him as they come off of turn number 2. Sexton will look to the inside of Alfredo. Here comes Kligerman with a shove.
There goes Sexton down to the inside of Alfredo. It looks like a lot of these cars are getting tight, or trucks rather, are getting tight on corner exit, especially out of turn 2. Everybody's so eager to get back on the gas, but it opens up the door to the inside if you do it too early.
It certainly does. These drivers have to try and see if they can conserve those tires as well as be a little bit easier off corner exit. Otherwise, they could end up in the outside wall with how these setups are made for these trucks as they work through turns 1 and 2 once again. Kyle Busch, you're working the outside. Sexton struggling a little bit as they get the bump from Parker Kligerman down the back straightaway now as we lose a little bit of momentum. This allows the 10 of DJ Cummins to go to the outside.
And look who's also up in the top 5 again, Nick DeGroot, who finished runner-up to Kyle Busch 1 week ago at Talladega. You know he'd like to flip that this week and get one on KB on home soil. And he is following the 51 to try to get the second to the outside of Anthony Alfredo. He goes into turn 1.
He's going to go to the very top side of the racetrack through turns 1 and 2 to get around both Kyle Busch and Anthony Alfredo. He's struggling a little bit, almost clips the wall, but is able to keep it out there and down the back straightaway. He will go, but I think Kyle Busch will have a nose over both him and Alfredo as they go through turns 3 and 4.
Still a very easy 3 wide for the race lead. Nothing special here. And how about Maxwell Kennan? We've not called his name much up to this point, but all of a sudden the 21 machine running the Michael Laughlin paint scheme from the late 90s NASCAR Xfinity Series days. That bright blue and white machine to the inside of Gary Sexton trying to get a spot over turn 2.
Ooh, a little bit of contact between him and Sexton that caused him to get a little bit loose. Parker Kligerman backs off just a little bit to allow them to get themselves relined and back out on the racetrack as they continue turns 3 and 4. Nick DeGroot now the obvious second-place driver right now as he's still staying on the back bumper of that number 51 Toyota Tundra of Kyle Busch as they come across the line.
DeGroot just trying to shade that right rear quarter panel of the 51 truck and maybe try and loosen it up ever so slightly through the center of the corner, but everybody getting tight pretty quickly. We're seeing a lot of trucks move up the racetrack in about 5 to 10 laps, and I don't know, and maybe you have a better sense of this, Taylor, whether or not that's just a byproduct of hard racing or whether or not that's actually how the tires are going to wear over the course of tonight's TobyChristie 150. What do you think?
It's a little bit of mix of both. I mean, the outside lane is so far looking to be the preferred line. I mean, we've seen everybody make the pass for the lead just about on that outside line. And, of course, those tires will wear a little bit, so they have to try to go a little bit conservative and try to run a different line compared to everybody else. That inside line will eat the tires very quickly early on here if they keep it up like this.
Something where you want to move to the top line to try and conserve the tires, and we're seeing it especially from the drivers at about 10th on back as Anthony Alfredo looks to the inside of Kyle Busch for the race lead in 3 and 4 as few cars go sideways in the middle of the corner behind.
Let's see who that was. Ooh, big contact towards the field as the caution is out. The 48 Joshua Slate and several other drivers getting involved. The 78 of Greg Stump as well. Big issues here off turn 4.
They just started bunching up over in 3 and 4. We'll take a look at the replay momentarily and see what happened, but this was about 4 or 5 different trucks that were fighting for position over off the end of the back straightaway, and Michael Rossi, I think, in about 10th is where this all came unglued. You'll see it on your screens. You take a look at the 78 machine. It was just behind all the action. Contact between the 53, the DJ Cummins number 10 machine, and it just sort of continued over the course of the turn. And by the time they got to turn 4, finally sideways proper, Rossi saved it, Cummins saved it, but Slate was the one who eventually went around off the nose of the 53 machine, and that's where we get the incident. A lot of incidents coming out of turn 4, a lot of contact between a fair few amount of different trucks. The 26 machine coming in right at the end as well. Chris Wilner trying to completely avoid it and just add some damage at the tail end of the run.
Yeah, I'm looking at the replay. The start of it happened when Rossi, as well as the 31 of Jesse Vaughn, made contact. And then, of course, the rest, as you brought out, James, is how it went out throughout the rest of the field. But they do have a fast repair. They can get through it and get another one and get back out on the racetrack here. And that's what some of our drivers are out there doing. But I know some of these drivers will try their best to save their fast repair because they don't want to use it up too quickly and end up towards the end of the race. If they get caught up in a last-minute caution, they'd have no fast repairs and their car is completely damaged to where they can't get back out on the racetrack.
3 fast repairs available to the field tonight. You imagine there'll be a few drivers who will end up using their fast repairs in short order, and a few drivers who are going to try and maybe save them. We've talked about that on multiple occasions in the Monday Night Racing broadcast that we've done both last season and this season, this very specific two-sim racing phenomenon of saving fast repairs. For those who are uninitiated with iRacing and the way it works, there is an option, and depending on whether or not you want it to be part of your race, you can set up when you set up a race where you can, with the click of a button, completely repair the damage on your car, even if the toe is completely bent out of the front end. If you have no rear spoiler or deck lid, you can clean that up. Drivers set the opportunity to do that 3 times over the course of this race, which means if you get caught up in someone else's wreck, it's not necessarily the end of your day like it would be in real life, but it also becomes a strategy wrinkle in these races, because there are some cases where you may want to ride around with a little bit of damage and save your fast repair so that you know you'll have a clean truck at the end when it matters most.
It certainly does, and we saw that quite a bit happen last week at Talladega Super Speedway, where drivers, even though they didn't seem like they had a bit of damage on their car, they decided not to use their fast repair and save it towards the last few restarts of the race. That way, they were able to have a fresh car, a faster car, and in fact, that's what the strategy used by Kyle Busch was to help him win the race. He had a little bit of damage towards the end of the race, but was able to come down pit road, get a fast repair, and went from 24 to first in just 2 laps. That's the biggest difference that you can have, a fresh car compared to a car that's been used up and has damage.
I have a feeling we might not necessarily see that again tonight. Racing at Las Vegas is a little bit different than what we see at Talladega. We can also tell you that Chris Rice in the 16 has pulled it behind the wall, and he is officially the first retirement of tonight's race. As the field bunches up for the restart, which will come on lap 15 of 100. Kyle Busch and Anthony Alfredo, your leaders in the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. The second race of the season for Monday Night Racing, and you can see all the action on Podium eSports every Monday night, save for the 28th of December, all the way through to the middle of next March as we work our way through Season 2. And Kyle Busch leads the field back to green, and Anthony Alfredo did not get a good restart at all. Parker Kligerman immediately read the situation as the 38 spun the tires, and Kligerman takes his Valvoline Toyota Tundra up to the high line to try and get around Alfredo and get third.
He could not make it work that time, so he dives it down to the bottom of the racetrack and continues to press forward. He'll now look to the inside of Alfredo as Gary Sexton in that number 13 Toyota will go to the outside of Kyle Busch as they'll go side by side, 2 rows deep for their battle for position. Kligerman gets to 3rd position. He wants more, though, as he'll try to get around Kyle Busch on the outside as Gary Sexton, your new race leader.
Sexton ran up high on Kyle Busch and took the air off the nose of the 51 machine, and that allowed Sexton to get by the 51 and lead that lap. So first lap led tonight for Gary Sexton as Kyle Busch continues to struggle with a loose race car. He slides on the racetrack and nearly to Anthony Alfredo as Parker Kligerman now draws even with the 13 for the race lead.
And certainly it is 3 wide back in for the 3rd position between DeGroot, Busch, and Alfredo as well, as we keep an eye on that battle for the race lead as Parker Kligerman trying to work the outside lane and is not able to get to him and complete the pass as Nick DeGroot will take over that 3rd position. But towards Kyle Busch, it is a hornet's nest of cars as they're 2, 3, even almost 4 wide as they're trying to go into turn 1.
I don't feel like you love where you are right now if you're the 51, just with all that traffic. He's got about 2-3 rows deep with 2x2 behind him. Meanwhile, Parker Kligerman all over the rear bumper of Gary Sexton for P1, and Nick DeGroot is coming hard to make it a 3-truck party at the front.
Don't forget that number 10 of DJ Cummings as well. This could be a 4-truck battle for the race lead as Cummings has definitely gained some ground. And in fact, looking at timing and scoring, he ran the fastest lap out of the entire field this time by with a 31.04 inside the top 10 as they come through turns 1 and 2.
A lot of cars struggling with the handling on their their trucks. That's one thing I've noticed that's been pretty consistent throughout the top 10. Everybody's sliding around and fighting to keep their trucks on the bottom, but these things are just a little bit tighter than a lot of people would like, I think. Not necessarily as free as you'd like to get them down, hooking the bottom the way you'd want, but as it stands, it's still Gary Sexton in front, and now it might be 4 trucks up to the front. Look who's made an appearance up front for the first time. It's Ford Martin in the 07.
He certainly has made up some ground. He wants more, though, as he gets into the inside of Nick DeGroot as they come off of turn number 2. DJ Cummings, though, almost right there, turns him around, but is able to save it and not make contact as they go down the back straightaway, diving it into turn 3 and 4, as here comes Jeff Green in that number 30 Chevrolet Silverado as they work off of turn number 4. He'll try to get to the inside of Cummings.
Jeff Green just following Ford Martin, and Green, the 2000 Xfinity Series champion. He's got some experience here at Las Vegas, albeit with the old configuration. There's Martin with a big move to the inside of Nick DeGroot to try and get third, but the 07 a little bit unsettled on corner exit. Now here comes Jeff Green potentially to his inside.
He will try to make it work, but cannot quite seem to get the run he needs off turn 2 now, as we see DJ Cummings working that outside lane to get around Ford Martin for the 4th position as they come off of turn number 4. It's going to be a 3-wide almost battle as Jeff Green goes to the bottom of the racetrack, and that leaves Martin in the middle and Cummings toward the top side of the racetrack as they come across the line.
That is indeed 3 wide for 4th place as one truck wrecks on the front straightaway. It may bring out the yellow flag, and it does indeed. It was a heavy hit. Couldn't tell who it was exactly, but a big hit. And actually, I think Kyle Busch was indeed involved. The 51 machine with damage all over his big machine here in sanitizer Toyota Tundra. We'll see what happened in the instant replay, but it looks like it was contact with the 26 machine of Chris Wilder, who was down to the inside. They just bounced off each other, and the 26 gave up the racetrack out of the 51, and the 51 smacks the wall hard right past the start-finish line. A few other trucks end up getting into the side of Kyle Busch. Not much they can do. Looks like I think Joe Agee in the 81 was involved in that incident, as was C.J. McLaughlin in the 32.
Yeah, C.J. McLaughlin actually lost the motor with that heavy contact that he had, so he's definitely going to need a fast repair to get back out on the surface as we're waiting for pit road to open up for them, as C.J. McLaughlin will try to come down pit road. A couple of more cars as well. Couldn't see who was that just went around. That looks like to be the 27 of Michael Massey's having some trouble.
Michael Massey having some trouble. Meanwhile, Greg Stumpf pulled it behind the wall as well. 78 machine, our second retirement of the evening, alongside Chris Rice in the 16. And now, pit stops for the first time. Everybody here with somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 20 laps on the tires, depending on whether or not they came out under that first yellow of the night or not. But it won't be a question for everybody out front, as Gary Sexton leads Parker Kligerman and company down pit road to presumably get 4 tires and fuel for the first time tonight in this TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas.
And now the battle is who will win the race off pit road here, as everybody makes their way down pit road, entering their pit box. Sexton and as well as Parker Kligerman and DJ Cummings finally hit their pit box. They go around and get their fuel and tire service required on their trucks, I should say. And who will win the race off pit road, we'll find out here momentarily as they now go around to the next side of the car. And there they go. Here comes Jeff Green. He will win the race off pit road as the drag race for second. And I believe it's going to go to Parker Kligerman, followed by Gary Sexton, DJ Cummings, and then Nick DeGroot, your top 5 off pit road.
Remember that we said presumably everybody was going to take 4 tires? Somebody probably was going to take 2 in that stretch, and Jeff Green was the one who ended up taking 2. So that bright pink and black, Chevy Silverado goes to the front on 2 tires. While we have a moment under the yellow flag, we'll remind you all that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring. Tufco Flooring is an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drainage. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. Tufco listens to your needs and requirements and develops custom solutions for every client. For more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. Got everybody lined up for the restart, but if we're looking for trends, if we're looking for patterns amongst the first quarter of this race, Taylor Burris, as they get set to line up for the restart momentarily. We'll see the lights come off the pace chart next time by, you would think. But I think trucks tightening up very quickly, and the ability to pull the air off of someone's truck if you're running ahead of them and to the outside. We saw it, I think, most notably with Gary Sexton and Kyle Busch a few laps ago, but I think that's not the only time we're going to see that happen tonight. You could get someone very loose if you can hang tough on the outside for a corner here.
It certainly can happen here, and we could probably see that even happen more often later on in the run, especially when those tires start to get through another 20 to 30 lap run here tonight, where drivers can utilize the air around each other to try to pull each other back, or where, like you brought out, get them loose to where they lose control of their truck. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well they manage their tires here through the next pit stop cycle that happens later on in the race, or will they just try to go all out and hope that a caution will happen early for them.
2 or 3 different sides of the same coin that you can look at depending on how you decide to play this and where the yellows fall. Usually when you have faster pairs in iRacing, it means you'll see slightly more aggressive racing, less long green flag runs, and more stints and sprints that will get us to the 100 lap distance tonight. I think we are seeing some of that already bear out here. The question is whether or not this race settles down ever so slightly over the next 30 laps or so, or if we continue to run in increments of about 10 to 15 laps or so. That's been about as far as we've been able to get to tonight before we get yellow flags. Interesting thing of note here that Noah Lewis came down pit road and then stayed out. So not totally certain what the freshness on the tires of the number 98 are, but he scored as the race leader and will bring us back to green next time by on lap 26 of 100, ahead of Jeff Green, who's on 2 tires, and then Gary Sexton and Parker Kligerman in line there. Kligerman, the first driver on 4 fresh tires in his Toyota Tundra. He's 3rd, Sexton 4th, and then DJ Cummings, the 5th car in line, 3rd car to the inside.
Looking at the timing and scoring right now and the stint length that Noah Lewis had, he currently has 12 laps on his tires. So if we don't count the cautions, he's probably got anywhere between 8 to 9 laps on his tires right now. So that's probably currently about, I would say, probably good 6 or 7 laps older than Jeff Green and Parker Kligerman. Of course, Jeff does only took 2 tires, so his tires are a little bit older on one side of him, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be left side tires that he did not take the right side tires he did. So he still has pretty old tires on the left side, so we'll have to see how that truck handles here later on in this run.
Kyle Busch, if you're wondering, 35th with a fast repair used up, so all the damage is repaired on his Toyota Tundra, but currently scored 2 laps down. So work to do with Lucky Dogs and racing through the field for KB as we go back to green flag racing with Lewis and Green at the front of this field. They fan out into turn 1, and immediately Kligerman and Sexton draw right up to the rear bumper of the 98. They go to the inside of Green, and we'll see which way Kligerman goes coming out of 2 to try and take the race lead to the inside. Goes the 77.
He will go to the inside. Jeff Green tried to go through the middle as before they entered turn 3 and 4, but couldn't quite get there as Noah Lewis tried to shut the door. But Parker Kligerman, with a head of steam on the inside lane, will take over as contact happens. Jeff Green is around after making contact with DJ Cummings.
Green goes around, another wreck on the front straightaway. We barely get another lap in before the yellow flag comes out again as they continue to bounce off each other down the front straightaway. But the contact with Jeff Green there, and I believe that may have been Kligerman who got into it. We'll look at the replay momentarily to find out the truth on that. But it was the 38 that went around, no question. It was actually DJ Cummings who got into Jeff Green in the middle of 3 and 4. Looks like Cummings caught the apron a little bit more than he would have liked. Ran up the racetrack to catch his truck, got into the side of Green, and that's where this all started. And a few names involved. The 31 machine of Jesse Vaughn. Stephen Ellis didn't really have anywhere to go. Ron Capps with some damage to the side of his number 28 machine. A few more names in the back that got swept up in this. Josh Palicki in the 53 also with heavy damage. Kyle McFadden in the 3 machine in trouble too, and a lot of folks from about 20th on back that just had nowhere to go and were in the wrong place at the wrong time, Taylor.
He certainly was, as well as Paul Sutton and the 33 of Jason Kiefer as well. Heavy damage for their trucks as they try to get back up to the pace truck and get back on pit road to get some needed required service for their trucks so they can continue on. But unfortunately for some drivers, that could have been their second fast repair used tonight.
While we're under the yellow flag, we'll take a moment to step aside, but don't go anywhere. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a moment of the action of the yellow as you watch Podium eSports coverage at the TobyChristie.com 150 Race 2, Season 2 for Monday Night Racing for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Welcome back to Podium eSports coverage of the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The second race of the second season of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. James Pike, the voice of Podium eSports, alongside Taylor Burris as we have just crossed the quarter mark of tonight's race. And Parker Kligerman is currently scored as the leader in the number 77 Valvoline Toyota Tundra. Of course, that 77 a number that Kligerman's got plenty of experience with, and this a sim that Kligerman has plenty of experience with. Parker competed in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series back in the spring. He also is a co-owner of Burton Kligerman eSports, one of the 20 teams in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and will look to try and get a few more victories in 2021 after they picked up their first win as a team back in February of this year. So Kligerman, not a slouch here, but Gary Sexton, also another name that's got plenty of sim racing experience. Graphic designer for Podium eSports, but a long-time sim racer out of Pennsylvania, has competed in all kinds of different leagues throughout the sim, and certainly not afraid to put Toyotas up near the front. He's number 13. Has been a threat early on. Taylor Burris, have a feeling he's going to be in the mix for a good chunk of the evening.
He certainly is going to be one to watch here as he continues on his way. Currently been inside the top 3 since pretty much the drop of the green flag here tonight. But I'm pretty sure there's a couple of other drivers to be keeping an eye on here tonight. Of course, you cannot forget also the 98 of Noah Lewis, even though he just now started up towards the front of the field. With those no pit stops that last time by, he's still running inside the top 3. DJ Cummings, your pole sitter, running inside the top 5 as well in that number 10. And then Ford Martin, he's worked his way up through the field and is sitting in the 6th position right now, so he has a good run going for him early on here tonight.
Other names here towards the back half of the top 10 that are beginning to make an appearance near the front for the first time tonight. How about Brendan Madonia and the 49 machine? The runner for NBC Sports, he's 7th. Matthew Stallconnect, who had that fantastic run in the Cup car at Talladega 1 week ago to open up his campaign in Season 2 of Monday Night Racing, he's 8th. Max Kennan in the 21 is 9th. And Preston Pardis, the newly minted 2-time Spec Miata Club Racing champion. He won the SCCA runoffs at Road America earlier this year to pick up that title in the second time in his career. He's currently in the 10th spot, or the 11th spot, just behind Anthony Alfredo, who we know about how good he's been in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Richard Childress Racing, but Alfredo also in the mix too. As we'll wait to see who gets going on this restart, which will come on lap 31 of 100. And oh, by the way, guess who's back on the lead lap, albeit in 33rd, but back on the lead lap is the number 51 of Kyle Busch.
Going to be interesting to see as he works his way up through the field now that he's back on the lead lap, and knowing how he is in the real life when it comes to racing in the truck starting towards the back half of the field, he's going to put on an entertaining show here tonight in that 51 Toyota Tundra. So we'll see what happens as the pace track makes that hard left turn down pit road, James.
Parker Kligerman back on the gas pedal, and back to green flag racing we go in the TobyChristie.com 150. Kligerman with that good run. He gapped Sexton by maybe 2-3 truck lengths to jump away from the field and control this restart early. Same for Noah Lewis and Nick DeGroot, who got a good jump on DJ Cummings and Ford Martin. Meanwhile, Anthony Alfredo with a great restart tucked up right behind the 10 machine.
He certainly is, as he now dives to the inside of that 10 machine as they dive into turns 3 and 4. Cummings trying to see if he can throw the block, but can't quite do it, as Anthony Alfredo will go to the inside past Ford Martin and be side by side with DJ Cummings for 5th as they come off of turn 4. Down the front straightaway, gets a little bit of help from the toe of the 98 of Noah Lewis now as they dive down into turn 1 and 2. That puts Anthony Alfredo back into the top 5, and now for 4 as he goes to the inside of Noah Lewis.
I think he might have moved Noah Lewis in the middle a 1 and 2 just a bit there, but Alfredo making his case. Not before we get another yellow flag incident over in turn 1 and 2, or turns 1 and 2. I see Brett Palnick around, Chris Wilner in trouble again. We'll find out what happened on the replay, but an incident toward the back of the field, and I think this might have been actually before Palnick. Looks like maybe, just maybe, Josh Slate and Ron Capps, the two that got involved in this, but about 3 or 4 different trucks trying to make something happen. And there's the biggest issue of all, I think. You cannot fit 4 trucks into a space that is only meant for 3, and that's what happened with Ron Capps and the 65 of Will Rogers, who's had a tough go of it in his first Monday night racing event of the season. But those two make contact. Josh Slate is an innocent bystander, as is Michael Rossi. Josh Balicki, who has had, I would almost argue, negative luck. Brett Baldeck, who nearly cleared that wreck and then just got clipped there by Ron Camp's number 28 machine and sent head on to the outside retaining wall before spinning like a top down to the apron. But that'll be one fast repair for Brett Baldeck, I think, Taylor Brush.
Also to note, Kyle Busch as well was involved in another incident out on track, along with, it looks like Jerry Jordan trying to come back up onto the racetrack. As Kyle Busch tried to avoid him, he went up and did not notice the 27 of Michael Massey's on his outside. Both of those making heavy contact to the wall as they are in severe damage mode. Massey was engine damage. Kyle Busch, I'm pretty sure his car has some severe aero damage. That engine is still running strong by the looks of it, but that truck's going to need some repairs done when he comes down on pit road.
It needs repairs, no question, but the bigger question, I think, is do you use those fast repairs now? He's already burned 1. This would be his second if he decides to use it only on lap 34. And then if you use the fast repair now, if you're rounding, then all of a sudden you've got 1 fast repair to work with for 70 laps. And that's if we don't have a green-white checker finish. So we may end up in a little bit more trouble than I think we initially thought if this carries on. And it's a really tough decision, I think, for Kyle Busch to make, especially from a strategy perspective.
Certainly was, as we just got word from race control. Jerry Jordan was disqualified for that incident that he caused with Kyle Busch, as well as the 27 of Michael Massey's.
So Jerry Jordan done for tonight. He, of course, owner and big man over at Kickin the Tires, who is represented on multiple fronts in tonight's race. Seth Eggert, the eSports editor and writer over at Kickin the Tires, also in as well. As we take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast, the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas, is brought to you by TobyChristie.com. Toby Christie has been a fan of cars going in circles since 1993 and a passionate member of the NASCAR Media Corps since 2007. He's also the co-host of the Final Lap NASCAR podcast, which is the longest-running NASCAR podcast of all time. Toby is a National Motorsports Press Association award-winning writer, and for more information, you can visit his website for all the news in the world of motorsports at www.tobychristie.com. We know it's a big night for TobyChristie.com, and I suspect we'll go ahead and give a shout-out to one Michael Carey, who has made some strong inroads with the design community. But Michael, one of the writers over at TobyChristie.com, figure that Michael will be tuning in tonight, as are a lot of other folks, to see Monday Night Racing begin its second campaign in earnest. And this sort of has the feel of, you think of Rockingham back right after the Daytona 500, the running joke back in the 80s and the 90s when people went there in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series in early February, was that was when the real season began. And I think to some degree, Taylor, it applies here too, just because the skills and the kind of racing that you see and you need at Talladega, especially in the Cup car, they don't necessarily translate to mile and a halves. And though the trucks do race a little bit more plate track like, I guess, it's definitely a different kind of racing that we're seeing tonight, and a different kind of racing that you're going to need to be successful in order to take home the championship at season's end.
Well, James, let's be honest, every single week that we'll be running throughout this season is going to be a different kind of racing each and every week. I mean, like you brought out early on in the show tonight, next week we'll be at Twin Ring Motegi in IndyCars. You're talking about 2 totally different spectrums of racing compared to the past 2 weeks of racing that we've already had at Talladega with the Cup cars and here with the trucks at Las Vegas. So it seems like every week is going to be a start of a new season for some of these drivers as they look forward to certain tracks that they'll be racing on and feel more comfortable driving on.
It is part of the allure of Monday night racing. As you take a look at the full season schedule, we'll get back to racing here on lap 37, cars rolling through turn 2. But part of the allure of Monday night racing is the depth and breadth of cars and tracks that are used within the service. This series will cover all different kinds of cars and tracks and ultimately forms of motorsport as we progress through the season, whether or not it's pavement, whether or not it's dirt, whether or not it's sports car racing, whether or not it's NASCAR racing, whether or not it's IndyCar racing. You will most likely have a night that you are going to want to tune in. Personally, we got North Wilkesboro towards the back end of the season. And as a native Northwestern North Carolinian, there's a special place for that track in my heart. I'm particularly excited for that one. But we've got some time before we get to that part of the season. And we've got some time to cover what happens in tonight's TobyChristie.com 150, which will go back green momentarily as Parker Kligerman will lead us to green once again on lap 37 of 100. He takes off. Sexton didn't get the greatest of restarts. DeGrooter, however, already to the inside of the 13. And here comes Matthew Stallconnect to the 41 down to the bottom as Anthony Alfredo stays up top.
As they work their way through turns 3 and 4 right now, they were having a great run right now. As here comes Kligerman to the lead as once again Gary Sexton holds strong in second. He'll dive to the inside in turns 3 and 4 as Nick DeGroot and Anthony Alfredo will do battle for that third position off turn number 4. New race leader will be Gary Sexton.
Sexton drops to the bottom and gets around Kligerman. Can Kligerman return the favor over in turn 1? Sexton will pin that 13 down to the bottom across the start-finish line, swing right up to the wall on corner entry. But now here comes Kligerman trying to go high and take nose off the front end of the 13 to get the race lead, and Anthony Alfredo following suit on that high line.
What a move indeed for Parker Kligerman as Anthony Alfredo tries to follow him now as they dive it into turns 3 and 4. Nick DeGroot also on that outside lane will try to get around Gary Sexton as they come off turn 4. Not close enough to complete the pass as they now see Gary Sexton will slot in behind Anthony Alfredo for third as Parker Kligerman has about less than half a car length over Anthony Alfredo as they dive into turn 1 as we see a couple of cars battling it out for that 6th position.
Blessing and a curse, I think, is if you cars rank over in turn 1, it will bring out the yellow flag once again. And again, it was deep in the field. Michael Rossi involved in some form here. A few more trucks that got swept up in this. We'll take a look and see what happens as we get the replay up for you momentarily. But C.J. McLaughlin in the 32 and then Garrett Miller in the 36. Those two were the first to come together. And this was just after the start-finish line as they entered turn 1. You'll see the 36 come up. Didn't realize, I think, that McLaughlin was there and turned right across the nose of the 32. Massey had nowhere to go. Josh Bilicki finally got on the brakes and avoided one. I think after all the wrecks he's been in, he'll be happy to not be part of one for once. It's been a tough night for Bilicki. Will Rogers barely snuck away from that. Chris Wilner almost got caught up in that. Michael Massey with some damage to his machine as well.
I'm pretty sure another driver who was glad they were not involved with that was Kyle Busch. He was ahead of that incident as it happened. He's now sitting in 20th position after this caution has come out on lap 40. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be happy that he doesn't have to use another fast repair here tonight.
Keeping track of fast repairs, keeping track of drivers who are stuck on pit road trying to keep themselves in one piece. As you see Miller come down to get his truck fixed up. McLaughlin down pit road, as is Will Rogers in the 65. And I believe then that means that Brett Baldeck and Jason Keffer will be waved around back to the lead lap. That is a 2-lap wave around that you get if you happen to get trapped 1 or more laps down. So before we'll get his laps back, and Parker Kligerman will lead the lead lap cars down pit road.
Yes, he will, and that will now move up through the field. I believe Noah Lewis will stay out once again in that 98, followed by Ron Capps, as we wait and see who will win the race off pit road amongst those drivers who were the leaders to come down pit road, as we see them coming around and finishing up their pit stop. Parker Kligerman, the first one to be released, as he will win that race off of pit road, followed by, I believe, it's going to be the 10 of DJ Cummings. No, actually, he's going to be finishing like in the 3rd or 4th position as we see Stallconnect as well as Anthony Alfredo and Gary Sexton, who will be your top 5 off pit road.
So Kligerman, Alfredo, Sexton, Stallconnect, and DJ Cummings, your first 5 off of pit road. More importantly, 4 trucks, Noah Lewis, Ron Capps, Josh Layton, Paul Sutton, have stayed out on either 6, 7, or 8-lap old tires, respectively. We'll take another break and be right back with more coverage of the TobyChristie.com 150 live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Podium eSports.
For years, people had to get professional tools off of a truck.
That's me.
but we know that tool trucks only come around maybe once a week.
You want to go check out what's in my van?
Now Dave knows that his NAPA Auto Parts store delivers parts multiple times a day to his shop, and they carry the professional line of Carlyle tools. Carlyle offers quality tools with a lifetime warranty on its hand tools and a significant savings over mobile tool trucks. And you can forget about the weekly payments and expensive finance charges.
Just pay me, every week for the rest of your life.
Carlyle Tools, as close as your local NAPA Auto Parts store.
Welcome back to Podium eSports coverage of the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. Race number 2 of the season for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. James Pike and Taylor Burris with our producer Ryan Bauer, punching all the buttons and bringing you the pictures you see on your screens this evening as we are locked in as the sun has gone down and the moon has come up at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And the question now, Taylor Burris, is who in 60 laps or maybe more is going to leave with the cup?
Well, we're going to find out. We've seen drivers such as Parker Kligerman, Anthony Alfredo, and Gary Sexton be some of the main stalwarts of tonight's race. Kyle Busch being one of them as well, but had trouble early on in the going with some incidents. He is now going to be starting in the 21st position here, so we'll see work his way up to the field. But also drivers such as Noah Lewis, who are having strong runs late in the going here, as they are trying to see what they can do on older tires. And we're going to see if Noah Lewis cannot spin the tires like he did on the previous restart. Will he be able to work his way and hold that race lead?
A few more events coming up in the world of iRacing over the course of the next week. In the world of Podium eSports 2, you'll see coverage of the second round of the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series at Auto Club Speedway tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on twitch.tv/Podium eSports. The Pro Series, of course, the final feeder series to the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, NASCAR's top level of esports competition in iRacing, where 40 of the best drivers in sim racing will compete for over $300,000 in prize money next year. And then Wednesday night, it's the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series, the Thanksgiving Classic at Lanier. You'll see some dirt racing on Podium's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube pages at 9 p.m. Eastern. Before we're back with another Monday night doubleheader next week, it's the Iowa Road Course for the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge on the main Podium Esports Twitch channel, and then Monday night racing from Twin Ring Motegi in Japan with the IndyCars next Monday night, November 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern on Podium's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. There's Noah Lewis, Ron Capps, Paul Sutton, Josh Slate, your 4 leaders, but also on old tires. The first truck on fresh tires once again is Parker Kligerman in the 77 machine, and it will be on Kligerman to try and make quick work of these front 4. But Lewis, the control car for the restart on lap 44 of 100. Kligerman, I think, trying to go a little bit early, and then everybody gets on the gas and they go, stacking it up a little bit in the middle of the pack around 10th or 15th. The clean restart otherwise is Lewis and Capps spin the field back up to full song, back into turn 1, and Kligerman immediately will go high to try and get to the front.
He's going to try to take it 3 wide off of turn number 2, but can't quite get to the outside just yet. This allows Gary Sexton with the head of steam. He'll dive it, but gets a big block from Joshua Slade. I think he'll 4 wide. Gary Sexton has to back off as he loses a lot of ground. Dropped all the way to the back half of the field by the looks of it.
Gary Sexton losing all that track position as they are 4 wide for second. A little bit of contact there between Josh Slate and Ross Capps as Noah Lewis continues to lead. And I think he's loving what Ron Capps is doing, because Capps is absolutely just stonewalling Parker Kligerman at the moment. Kligerman's got nowhere to go, but he finally found an opening. There goes Kligerman to the bottom on fresh tires and down to the middle for the race lead down the backstretch.
3 wide once again for the race lead as they dive it into turn 3 and 4. Anthony Alfredo's going to follow Parker Kligerman through the middle as long as Ron Capps doesn't shut the door on him. He's going to do everything that he can. Can't quite complete the pass. Parker Kligerman back up to the race lead here at Las Vegas.
Kligerman and Alfredo following the same blueprint that Kyle Busch used to get to victory lane at Talladega last Monday night. He went through the middle on that final restart to get the track position he needed because there wasn't room anywhere else, and it worked out for him in the end. Looks like it worked out well for Kligerman and Alfredo too, who's alongside Ron Capps trying to take away the second spot.
Side by side for seconds, Caps on the outside. Alfredo to the inside as they come off of turn number 4. Alfredo's got a little bit of a nose over on Caps for second as they come across the line. Their top 3 separated by about 2 or 3 truck lengths from DJ Cummings in that number 10.
We carry on here. It is Alfredo and Caps racing for the second spot. Cummings now up into 4th and beginning to charge on the fresh tires. This is not what Ron Caps needs to see. Remember, he's the last of the 4 trucks that stayed out of this most recent yellow show. Tires are a little bit older on the 28 Blue Max machine, but still hanging tough in there as Alfredo continues to try and pick off second.
He certainly is trying to pick off seconds, but this allows DJ Cummings now to get into the mix with those 2 battling, along with the 90 of Preston Pardis as well. So we have 5 cars under a blanket for the race lead, as well as Matt Stallconnect. So 6 car trucks here trying to do battle here as they come off of turn number 2. Caps and Alfredo still side by side for second.
Money on the fresh tires. The first time we've seen Preston Pardis this high up in the field all night long. Into the inside of DJ Cummings. He will go to try and take this spot away. Alfredo looked like he got a little bit loose underneath Ron Caps, and he'll check back in line as Caps gets a good run on Parker Kligerman to try and go get the race lead.
He's going to try to dive to the inside of Parker Kligerman, but Kligerman with the fresher tires is still going to try to maintain the race lead. Off of turn number 2, they will go, and it's still going to be Parker Kligerman over Ron Caps and Anthony Alfredo as they go down the Nellis straightaway.
Kligerman still leading, but only by maybe a truck length, if that, over Caps and Alfredo. And Caps has done a really great job of taking advantage of these older tires. He's hung around in second. Everybody else that didn't take tires on this pit stop, the first truck on the leaderboard, Noah Lewis, has already slipped down to 10th. So Caps putting up the best fight of the old tire quartet that was at the front on the most recent restart as Alfredo nearly clips the left rear quarter panel of the number 28 machine. But it is still Caps there, and now Preston Pardis looking to the inside to take away 3rd from Alfredo.
Preston Pardis, even though he's an SCCA champion, he does know how to wheel a stock car, or of course a truck here around Las Vegas, as he is definitely showing that around. Ron Caps to the inside for that 2nd and 3rd position. At 3 wide for 2nd, almost a little bit of contact between him and Caps as they dive it into turn 1.
Also of note here, if you're wondering what route he's up to, Kyle Busch already back up to 9th. It is number 51, Big Machine Hand Sanitizer, Toyota Tundra. He is charging through this field, and it might not be too long before we see him make plays for a spot in the top 5 of the race lead, as Kligerman is now opening up there on Alfredo, who managed to clear Ron Caps to take over 2nd, and now here comes Preston Pardis to Caps inside to potentially get 3rd.
He's going to try, but there comes also Matt Stallconnect as well in this battle, so they're almost going to go 3 wide off of turn number 2, and almost 4 wide as DJ Cummings try to take and shoot the middle, as well as Kyle Busch and Nick DeGroot now come up to this pack of cars, diving it into turns 3 and 4. Busch to the inside, DeGroot to the outside.
Kyle Busch beginning to enter maybe the biggest heart of the storm that we have in the top 10 so far. Anthony Alfredo, meanwhile, has clawed to the rear bumper of Parker Kligerman's number 77, and there may be a battle for the race lead in short order as DJ Cummings looked to the inside of Preston Pardis, but got tight in the center of the corner, couldn't do anything about it. Matthew Stallconnect, his eNASCAR teammate, both of them working in the Uptown Charlotte Tower for NASCAR proper. Might see those two work together and potentially get around Pardis in the 90 truck.
They're going to try to work together as they get around Preston Pardis for 3rd. Matt Stallconnect keeping an eye on that battle for race lead, as well as Alfredo tries to dive to the inside of Parker Kligerman, but it can't quite make it work. Meanwhile, DJ Cummings to the inside of Preston Pardis, side by side as Kyle Busch looks on.
As Kyle Busch makes his charge once more, we'll take a moment to bring you tonight's Midway Race Bank, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Parker Kligerman, your leader after 54 laps complete of 100 in tonight's TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. Anthony Alfredo 2nd. Matthew Stallconnect in the 3rd spot at this time. Preston Pardis running 4th. 5th belongs to the number 51 of Kyle Busch, winner last week at Talladega. DJ Cummings is 6th. 7th to the 07 of Ford Martin. Nick DeGroot, the defending champion of Monday Night Racing, is 8th. 9th to the 21 of Maxwell Kennan. And Stephen Ellis, hockey reporter turned sim racer, running in 10th with Jesse Vaughn.
Jesse Vaughn, or Stephen L. Brandon Beaudoin is now sitting in 12th position with Robbie Lyons in 13th. Seth Eggert in that number 45. He is sitting in 14th, followed by Michael Rossi in the 15th position. Steve Affont is sitting in 16th, followed by NHRA champion Ron Capps, dropped all the way back to 17th, with Roger Diebold in 18th. Noah Lewis is sitting in the 19th position, and Gary Sexton from Podium eSports sits 20th.
Rob Zemico is 21st at this time. 22nd belongs to Josh Balicki. Paul Sutton rides in the 23rd spot, and 24th is where you'll find the 36 of Garrett Miller. Josh Slate holds 25th, 26th to the 30 of Jeff Green. Kyle McFadden has currently scored 27. 28th on the board is Jason Kemper. 29th belongs to the 26 of Chris Wilner, and Brett Baldwin currently runs in 30.
Photographer for USA Today, Mark Rebalis is sitting in 31st, followed by Joe Adge in 32nd position as the caution is out.
33rd, CJ McLaughlin, Drew Welker, 34th, 35th to Michael Massey, 36th, Will Rogers, Jerry Jordan, 37th, 38th, Greg Stone, Chris Rice, 39th. And as the yellow flag comes out, that also concludes our iRacing Made-It-Way race break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. You can get on track today by visiting iRacing.com. Yellow flag out here, replay on your screens. You'll see what happened to the 36 machine of Garrett Miller, who I think had an engine let go in his Chevrolet Silverado, Taylor.
Looking at it as well, he had some big contact with Rob D'Amico as well as they come across the start-finish line here, entering turn 1. As we look at the replay a little bit further back, you can see the contact between him and the 29, and that just causes more issues for several other drivers such as CJ McLaughlin, and also I believe Will Rogers decided to pull it behind the wall and end his night.
Few more drivers who have just struggled here as Will Rogers has pulled it behind the wall, so he may be the 4th retirement of tonight's race and will be scored 36th if race ended at this time. Everybody down pit road. Parker Kligerman has been sitting out in front for a good chunk of this evening's proceedings, and we'll get 4 tires on his number 77 Valvoline Toyota Tundra and come off of pit road first ahead of Anthony Alfredo, DJ Cummins, and Star Connect. Doesn't look like we saw any 2-time pit stops this time, Taylor. I think everybody getting on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles in the middle of this race to prepare themselves for the stretch run.
Certainly is. By the time we go back, Green Flag Racing will be less than 40 laps to go here tonight. So these drivers definitely trying to see if they can get all the fresh tires that they need. So that way they can hopefully, if we have a long green flag run towards this end, have enough to keep going.
We talk about how iRacing has so many different car track combos and so many different ones that we can expect in the near future, and a few that have been talked about that might not necessarily be household names to the NASCAR crowd, but certainly are household names to the motorsports crowd. I think the most immediate one you suspect, given that it is already in development, and given that Greg Hill has tweeted a few times about it. He, of course, the director of art at iRacing, but the streets of Long Beach, home of the Long Beach Grand Prix, that staple of what was the kart series, what is now IndyCar, but one of the great street circuits in America, that's soon coming to iRacing. Also officially announced from iRacing's end, Hockenheim will, in the near future, be coming to iRacing. I don't think need to explain much about that. Germany's most famous circuit, a longtime home of the Formula One German Grand Prix, and also pretty prolific amongst the sports cars, which might be useful if you decide you want to go take a ride in a GTLM or GTE machine. There may or may not be a brand new Corvette C8 waiting for you in iRacing as well. Pretty impressive machine, that, Taylor, and I've had the chance to run that a few times. A lot of fun, a lot of power. You have to know what you're doing with it, but you get a sense of just how difficult it is to race those cars at an incredibly quick pace, and just how much fun it is if you know what you're doing.
By far, the GTE, GTLM class on the iRacing surface is my favorite road racing car to run with on the iRacing surface. So much fun to drive, and of course, the manufacturer respect that you can have. You can, of course, not only drive Chevrolet, but Ford, Ferrari, BMW, and Porsche. So it's basically a pick your poison of kind of meal with these racetrack cars here. And of course, take them to any of your favorite road courses on the iRacing service, from Le Mans, Daytona, Sebring, you name it. We can definitely give you a chance to go and drive in these powerful GT sports cars.
And speaking of the GTEs, we will be racing with them in Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. Coming up a little bit later this season, March 8th, we'll head to the Circuit Villeneuve with the GTEs. It is the first race in the round of 7 in the Monday Night Racing playoffs. So there will be a lot on the line that Monday night you'll want to tune in. We'll also go racing with the brand new LMP2 prototype, the Dallara P217, that just made its debut in iRacing in September and has widely been lauded by the community as one of the best cars iRacing has ever built. And I can attest, it is a terrifying, flying, virtual carbon fiber, just screaming rocket that you can blitz some racetracks if you really have a good feel for that thing. But we'll be at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park with that car on January 18th, and that should be a lot of fun. That'll be, maybe laps of like 1 minute 10, 1 minute 11, something just
blazing speed.
Absurd. Yeah, something that will maybe hurt your brain, but should put on a very, very good show. You'll want to tune into Podium eSports Brokers Night if you want your sports car fix in Monday Night Racing. As Parker Kligerman will lead us to the arena lap 62 of 100 with Anthony Alfredo, Matthew Stalknecht, DJ Cummings, and Ford Martin in show. Kligerman waiting for the green. Good jump for the 77 machine. Alfredo trying to drop to the bottom and does. So he and Kligerman and Stalknecht will go single file 1, 2, 3. DJ Cummings has the opportunity to do it in fourth, but he'll stay high and then finally drop to the bottom. So the first side-by-side battle for Morton and Preston Portis for 5th and 6th.
They now go single file as we keep an eye on the battle for the race lead as Anthony Alfredo goes to the top side of the racetrack. Now Stalknecht dives to the inside. Kligerman tried to throw the blunt. Now it's 3 wide once again. Now 2 wide again as they come out of turn number 4. Parker Kligerman, Anthony Alfredo side by side off of turn number 4. And who will lead this lap as they come across the line? I think it's going to go to that 38 of Anthony Alfredo, new race leader here tonight as they dive into turn 1, 3 wide for the 5th position.
Oh, and guess who's on the bottom in that 3-wide battle for 5th position? None other than the 51 machine of Kyle Busch, as Anthony Alfredo just gave the slightest of love taps to Parker Kligerman to go get the race lead. Alfredo now in front in his number 21 eSports Racing lead Chevy Silverado. You, of course, saw that on Podium eSports over the course of the spring and the fall. And now Alfredo back to the point with Kligerman in second and DJ Cummings in third.
He's definitely doing a great job of trying to hold off Parker Kligerman as they dive into turns 1 and 2. Here comes Kyle Busch, though. He's got a head of steam as well as he goes to the inside of Preston Portis for that 5th position. Down the Nellis straightaway they will go. Kyle Busch stuck behind Matt Stalknecht for that 5th position as they dive into turn 3. Now here comes DJ Cummings for second.
The eNASCAR brigade down on the bottom of the racetrack. Stalknecht trailing his teammate, as it were, DJ Cummings. But those two both in Harris Lube painted Ford F-150s and Toyota Tundras, and both making charges to the front, trying to work the inside as Alfredo and Kligerman and Portis, and now Kyle Busch try and run the high line.
They are doing a great job running that high line, building that momentum that they need to get around their competitors. As we see the top 3 get around both Cummings and Stalknecht. Kyle Busch trying to finish up with DJ Cummings off of turn number 4. He's now going to get held up by Preston Portis a little bit as they come off turn 4. And here comes Ford Martin in the 07 with a head of steam following Kyle Busch on that outside lane.
We're hitting that interesting point in the run, maybe about 5 to 10 laps in, where it just seems like the leader can't get away, and everybody else behind him can creep right up to the rear bumper, but they can't really go anywhere. What you end up with is the racing that you're seeing in front of your screen, where it's about maybe 4 or 5 rows back of 2 and sometimes 3 wide racing, which is incredibly entertaining to watch across the board, as they're 3 wide a little bit further back, or at least were. They thought about it. 2 wide again for third. Here comes Parker Kligerman to the bottom to try and get the lead from Anthony Alfredo.
Here comes Preston Portis as well. He tried to get around to the inside of Parker Kligerman for second, but couldn't quite make it work. Now he'll go to the highest point of the racetrack compared to our top 2 as they come out of turn number 2. Now dive into the middle of the racetrack to get a run down the Nellis straightaway here as Kyle Busch is still looking on, watching the top 3 to see if he can gain some ground. And once again, take control of this race. He dives to the bottom of the racetrack through 3 and 4 to the inside of Preston Pardus.
Kyle Busch got a tremendous run to the inside of Preston Pardus in the middle of 3 and 4. He found the white line and stuck the 51 right on it. And to the inside of Pardus he will go. And Kyle Busch may well be back up to third. And after the night he's had, it's been a bit of a redemption story after getting caught up in some early wrecks. But Kyle Busch now back amongst the race leaders as we approach 30 laps to go in the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas.
We are approaching 30 laps to go, so this is go time for drivers such as Kyle Busch, Preston Pardus, Parker Kligerman. You want to try to find a way to get around Anthony Alfredo to take home the checkered flag here at Las Vegas, but it's going to be a tough order to see as several other drivers are getting involved with it. Ford Martin, DJ Cummings, Stall Connect. Robbie Lyons has broken inside the top 10. He's sitting in 8th position as Jesse Vaughn in 9th, who's had an up and down night. He's now broken into the top 10.
Jesse Vaughn beginning to charge again. Pardus now sitting in line. Everybody beginning to run up top. You can feel the good coming off of the Goodyear Eagles. And they're about 5 to 10 laps. It almost seems like that middle high to high lane is the one you want to be in order to click off the fast laps if we get a green flag run here, Taylor.
He certainly are wanting to do that as they are running pretty much all the drivers inside the top 10 running that middle groove except for Jesse Vaughn, who dived it to the bottom of the racetrack off of turn number 2, but everyone's running that middle to high groove as Parker Kligerman looks to the inside of Anthony Alfredo side by side for the race lead as they come off of turn number 4. Kligerman will try to take the race lead over, just barely pulls the slide job over Anthony Alfredo.
Alfredo read it beautifully, though. He knew that he was going to end up going to the inside. But here comes Preston Pardus with a run out of nowhere to get to the inside of Alfredo and try and take away second.
Side by side for second as Kyle Busch looks on as they come off of turn number 2. Preston Pardus using that inside lane, but Alfredo with the outside momentum will maintain second place as they go into turns 3 and 4. Kyle Busch will look to the outside of Preston Pardus and try to take third, but can't get to it. He'll try the crossover off turn 4.
Crossover continuing here. Everybody in line. Kyle Busch now looking to the outside of Preston Pardus. Anthony Alfredo trying to take the lead back from Parker Kligerman. Meanwhile, just a little bit further back, Max Kennett, Brennan Montoya, Robbie Lyons, Nick DeGroot. Lyons, of course, you heard on the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge on Podium eSports main Twitch channel just a few moments ago, and jumping out of the booth back into the driver's seat. He, of course, with Real Line Truck Series and Xfinity Series experience. And now I wonder if he might have decided that it's about that time of the race where he needs to get to the front if he wants to win this thing.
He's going to certainly try to do that right now. Currently not one of the fastest trucks on the racetrack. Ran a 32.04. So he's struggling just a little bit as he just got passed by our former champion, Nick DeGroot, for the 11th position as the caution is out.
Yellow flag is out. Trouble in 1 and 2 again. It looks like maybe the 48 machine of Josh Slate in trouble one more time. He just got turned coming down the front straightaway. Ron Capps in the 48 got into it. We'll see here on the replay what transpired between the 28 and the 48. But it was Capps and it was Slate who came together on the exits of the front straightaway. The incident actually started right before the start-finish line. Capps and Slate came together. Capps tried to come down in front of the 48 and just didn't quite have the room to clear himself. So those two slide and slip, and then the 48 bounced off of Noah Lewis, who slid sideways, and the 48 ended up in the fence. And that's where this really all went sideways, as a few more trucks came in at the very end and ended up in trouble. Not too many other trucks were damaged, save for the 29 of Rob Demico, and I believe Chris Wilner in the 26 also involved in this wreck as well.
I'm pretty sure Joshua Slade is looking forward to cross this race off his list to move on to the next round at Twin Ring Motegi. He has been in just about every single incident here tonight, so I'm pretty sure he's ready to pack it up and head on out of here once we're done with the checkered flag here at Las Vegas.
Parker Kligerman again leading this field down pit road. And Kligerman's led more laps than anyone else tonight, but it doesn't necessarily feel like he's a dominant truck per se. Certainly a race-winning capable truck for sure, but you look at the way they've run in the front 5, front 6 throughout the course of this evening. You can say there are a lot of different drivers who have a shot at getting the victory tonight. Kyle Busch amongst them.
He certainly is, and of course Parker Kligerman is the second all-time winner of Monday Night Racing with 3 wins the last season, a win at Talladega with the 87 Cup cars as well as at Bristol, and then winning at Indianapolis with the Indy cars. So he's going to be one to watch next week as well at Twin Ring Motegi with the Indy cars with his previous experience.
I'll be the first to admit I'm incredibly excited about Twin Ring Motegi next week. One of my favorite tracks in all of iRacing. I think incredibly underrated for any stock car, but IndyCar is the combo that we know best in iRacing. And for those who watched the NBC Sports Network over the course of the spring, you might have caught the Twin Ring Motegi race and the iRacing IndyCar Challenge that had action all over the place. Scott Laughlin getting caught up in a late race wreck. Simon Pagenaud and Scott Dixon racing wheel to wheel in the final closing laps of that race. Pagenaud getting the better of Dixon, but still, if that race set any sort of precedent for what we can expect to see next Monday night, 9 p.m. on Podium's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels, the place you want to be for that race, we will be in for an incredibly fun night of racing.
We certainly will.
While we have a moment, we'll take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring. Tufco Flooring is an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. Tufco listens to your needs and requirements and develops custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. Everybody on fresh tires, not really much of a difference on strategy, save for Kyle McFadden, who currently runs 16th. He on 2 tires on this most recent pit stop, but everybody else on 4, Taylor. So do you make anything of any sort of strategy here whatsoever? Do you worry about any sort of fast repairs here? Is there anything that you see amongst the top 10 that could separate someone from the rest of the pack in a race where it has been very difficult to get out not only in front of this field, but away from it in particular? Any leader has had to deal with second and third and fourth, no maybe more than about 2 or 3 truck lengths back.
Well, that's the problem, is everybody has the same amount of tires now and pretty much the same things pretty much, except for Kyle McFadden. Everybody has the same amount of fuel, same amount of tires, so it's going to be a tough call for some of these drivers to try and pull away from each other just of how close the racing and this package with the trucks are here at Las Vegas. So it's going to take a little bit of a longer run at seeing who can conserve their tires the best if we are able to go green from here to the end of the race. Now, that's when it's going to be interesting to see how well the gaps are starting to going to be different from everyone else. But it's so far, when we take this green flag here, everybody's going to be right on top of each other, battling for positions all the way to the checkered flag.
My hunch is that we are not done with yellows. My hunch is that there will be a few green-white check rooms. My hunch was correct 1 week ago. We'll see whether or not the crystal ball is working in Old Pikes Camp tonight at Las Vegas, as we are in complete darkness, and track temp holding pretty steady, 81 degrees Fahrenheit, air temp 79 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So decently warm for a race in iRacing, but not necessarily excessively hot. Max track temps that we've seen in sim usually about 140 degrees. If you like your tires melted down to the beads and then some in sim, that's about the best combo you're gonna find. Bright sunshine and very hot track conditions. But for now, seasonable May evening in sim. At Parker Kligerman in control of the field once again. The restart to come on lap 78. And we'll see if truck number 77 can beat everybody to the line, which he does. And he will lead lap number 77 as Anthony Alfredo spun the tires a bit. And there goes Preston Partis off the front bumper of DJ Cummings. And Matthew Stallconnect rather.
He had some big issues as he comes back up on the racetrack. Will the caution come out? The answer will be no. We are going to stay green flag racing, and that helped out big time for several drivers. Kyle Busch and Parker Kligerman pull away from Anthony Alfredo by about 3 truck lengths as they dive into turns 3 and 4, as Alfredo and DJ Cummings now will do battle for third.
They do battle for third. Car shot, truck sideways out of turn 4. We may get the yellow flag before we get the chance. Yes, indeed, yellow out for a big wreck coming out of turn 4. Everybody in the back in a lot of trouble. And it was right before Kyle Busch was ready to make the move to the inside of Parker Kligerman. He had a run on corner exit, but trouble for the 3-truck of Kyle McFadden, who, remember, took 2 tires on that most recent yellow flag. So my hunch is that the lack of grip probably hurt the 3-truck and got him in trouble, and he did indeed get sideways. You'll see it on the replay momentarily. But 3-truck goes sideways, loses it all by himself, and then gets finished off with a little bit of help maybe from the 9-truck of Stephen Ellis. And then a few more trucks there. Josh Palicki again, Ron Capps again, and before we get to Josh Slate. It's been negative golden horseshoes in that camp for a good chunk of this night. I think anybody in that group, just no luck amongst them, and they've been swept up in a lot of wrecks this evening, Taylor.
They certainly have, but some fortunate news for Preston Pardus after he got spun around on that opening restart. And now he will be able to catch up to the field, not go a lap down, and also come down pit road to get those damages on his truck repaired as well. So a big break for that number 90 of Preston Pardus.
Indeed, a big break that will allow Pardus to get back into contention, but it's taken a while for a lot of these trucks to get back to the front. Remember, Kyle Busch was involved in wrecks early. He is only just now back in contention to win this race at the very front of the field at least. Gary Sexton got loose coming out of turn 2 and had to crawl along the apron some 45, 50 laps ago. He's only made it back to 10th, so we're starting to get to the point where maybe if a few of these drivers have run out of fast repairs, then perhaps you might be able to get back into it as drivers retire from the race. But it could be tricky to make the charge back to the front of the field. As we remind you all that tonight's broadcast of the Toby Christie.com 150 is brought to you by TobyChristie.com. Toby Christie has been a fan of cars going in circles since 1993 and a passionate member of the NASCAR Media Corps since 2007. Toby is also the co-host of the Final Lap Weekly NASCAR podcast, which is the longest-running NASCAR podcast of all time. He's a National Motorsports Press Association award-winning writer, and for more information and all the news you need to know in the world of motorsports, you can visit the website, www.tobychristie.com. Also of note, that this is not the only event coming up in the world of Podium eSports over the course of the next week. A few more I can tell you about, which continues tomorrow night with the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series. The road to the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series continues as drivers will take to their Xfinity Series cars at Auto Club Speedway. You'll find that broadcast tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium eSports. Wednesday night, we go dirt racing. TB will be involved with that. The Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from the dirt version of Lanier National Raceway. You can find that broadcast on Podium's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels at 9 p.m. Eastern this Wednesday night. And then next Monday night, it's a doubleheader as per usual with the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge and Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. For Grit, it's the Iowa Road Course. Monday Night Racing, the Indy Cars at Twin Ring Motegi. 7:30 p.m. start time for Grit on twitch.tv/Podium eSports, and then Podium's Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at 9 for round number 3 of Monday Night Racing next week.
Quick little thing to bring about that dirt race Wednesday night. We will have a very special guest joining myself and Justin Prince up in the booth. So make sure you tune in Wednesday night. You'll be very surprised and very happy if you're a fan of all things NASCAR radio broadcasting.
Alex Hayden from the voice of NASCAR, the Motor Racing Network, joining that broadcast. Should be a lot of fun. We know he's got plenty of dirt in his veins as an Indiana native. We know that a lot of folks in Hoosier land know dirt racing. Any of the Indiana natives that I've spoken to have been involved in motorsports. They try and explain the kind of mad following that it has. And every single one of them always says something to the point of, you just won't be able to understand it unless you go there. And then when you get there, you will see what we mean. And there are some drivers of Monday Night Racing that have backgrounds on those Indiana dirt tracks, most notably Chris Wilder, the 26, who works both for NASCAR Productions and the Motor Racing Network as a reporter. He's in tonight's race, currently running 21st. And Dylan Welch, who is a reporter for MRN and NBC. He also His plenty of experience running midgets around the dirt tracks of Indiana can be found in many a Monday night racing event over the course of the season. Has a victory, too, in Monday night racing in the trucks at North Wilkesboro last season. So certainly a threat that you cannot count out. He's Dylan. But the lights are off of the pace truck. The restart to come on lap 84 of 100. Parker Kligerman leading Kyle Busch, Anthony Alfredo, and DJ Cummings, the first of the championship 4 from last season, and also the pole sitter tonight up in that 4th spot on the high line. You wonder if he may try and learn a few things for the 51 truck to try and at least get around Alfredo, maybe Kligerman, and potentially try and race Busch outright for the lead.
It's going to be interesting to see what will happen once we take this restart. Will Kligerman be able to find a way to hold off Kyle Busch here at his home track, or will someone else try to get into the mix that we haven't really talked about? Martin, as well, is running in that 6th position, had a strong truck here all night, that 07. Will he work his way? Also, you got to count out Jesse Vaughn and Brandon Madonia, and of course the former champion Nick DeGroot, who are running inside the top 10. They may have something for the top 2 currently at the front of the field.
Seeing the same sort of names recycling at the front, but again, about 10 to 15 trucks, I think, have a shot to win this if you are in the right spot. As Kligerman, I think, almost got a bunt from Anthony Alfredo to get back going. The green flag out once again, so the 77 clear of the field by maybe a truck length or 2 or 3. Alfredo trying to get a decent run to the inside of Kyle Busch, but we would expect that 51 to start climbing the hill and gaining some momentum, or maybe not. How about Alfredo with a big run to clear Busch out of 2?
He certainly is, as Kyle Busch will do battle with DJ Cummings for 3rd position now as they dive it into turn 3 and 4. Matt Stallknecht in the 5th position watches on as Anthony Alfredo tries to take the lead off turn 4, pulls the slide job on Parker Kligerman as DJ Cummings goes to the inside, 3 wide as they come across the line.
Almost 3 wide, and no fear from DJ Cummings, who immediately got to the inside as soon as he could to try and get around Anthony Alfredo. He'll lose that momentum in that lane, though, as Kyle Busch will try and make it happen up top, and they might go 3, they might go 4 wide for a second for a moment.
Stallknecht trying to push it to go 4 wide, but backed out as they go into turn 3 and 4. Kyle Busch to the inside of Parker Kligerman. He gets to the back bumper of Anthony Alfredo as they come off at turn number 4. We're going to be 15 laps to go this time by.
Here comes Kyle Busch in the 51 machine, who has clawed his way back to the front after being involved in early accidents. But Kyle Busch in the 51 machine trying to keep it down to the bottom and just creep up. Almost got Anthony Alfredo, but Kyle Busch ahead by a nose down the backstretch.
He's going to be side by side still with Anthony Alfredo, as Anthony Alfredo will take over the race lead down the back straightaway into turn 3 and 4. Kligerman pushing Alfredo. DJ Cummings trying to work with Kyle Busch as they come off 4. Down the front straightaway they'll go. Anthony Alfredo will maintain the race lead as they come across the line. Alfredo will lead that lap ahead of Kyle Busch as they dive it into turn 1.
At a 15 1,000ths of a second, the gap between the 21 and the 51 at the stripe last time by, as we work our way towards 10 laps to go in the Toby Christie NAPA 150. Now here comes Kligerman to the outside of Kyle Busch.
Don't forget Ford Martin, that 07 as well. He's to the outside trying to get around Kyle Busch, as Kyle Busch and DJ Cummings will try to work the inside lane. Matt Stallknecht in 6th watches on as he tries to go to the outside as well.
Hip checking a little bit further back in the field from about 15th. We'll see if they keep it clean towards the back half of this lead back. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch got incredibly tight through the middle of 1 and 2 and slid up the racetrack right in front of Ford Martin. That opened the inside for DJ Cummings. Meanwhile, Kligerman now all over the rear bumper of Anthony Alfredo for the lead.
Meanwhile, in the battle for 5th position, 3 wide for Ford Martin, Matt Stallknecht, and DJ Cummings as they come off of turn number 4. Down the front straightaway, Stallknecht is able to get around Cummings. Now works on Ford Martin for that 4th position.
Biggest thing in all of that transpired in the last half lap or so that allowed Kyle Busch to clear the 3 wide battle for 3rd, and now it is just his line that he needs to worry about running to try and run down Kligerman and Alfredo to get back to that battle for P1.
Down into turn 3 and 4, Kligerman, Alfredo doing battle for 1st position as Kyle Busch and Ford Martin are trying to gain up to the back bumper of the top 2 as they come off of turn 4. Down the front straightaway, Stallknecht and DJ Cummings also in a battle as well for that 5th position as they go into turn 1. Cummings goes to the outside, everybody else stays single file.
Starting to see the idea, I think, from Kligerman and Alfredo at least. Kligerman's had the opportunity to get around the 21 on multiple occasions, but he's running in line with Alfredo, trying to create a draft train to stretch this out from everybody else in the field and make this a 2-car battle and 2-car battle alone for the race win.
He is definitely doing a great job of that, but it might not be no avail because everybody else is also starting to get single file and keeping this train going. Right now, as Kyle Busch, Ford Martin has now caught up the back bumper of Parker Kligerman now as they dive it into turn one. Kyle Busch takes a peek but decides to think better of it and hold his position as Ford Martin goes a little bit half a lane lower than Kyle Busch off turn two.
10 now, 9.5 laps to go in this TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. And again, Kligerman just sitting and waiting for his moment. We'll see when he decides to execute and make the move. It will come. The question is whether or not he'll have company when he decides to make the move. And now he's decided it's time. There goes Kligerman to the inside, all the way to the apron to try and get the race lead from Alfredo.
He'll dive into the inside of the racetrack through turns 1 and 2. Can't quite pull the slide job just yet as he just barely gets around, but will not be able to make it work as the outside momentum. Anthony Alfredo tries to keep it on the outside. Kyle Busch now tries to go to the bottom of the racetrack as they enter turn 3 and 4.
Alfredo got tightly fenced it on the exit of turn 2, trying to keep off of Parker Kligerman. So damage to the right side of his Chevy Silverado. He'll regroup. Meanwhile, here comes Kyle Busch to the inside of the 77 and push back to try and get the race lead with Ford Martin in the 07 truck in tow.
Kyle Busch led that lap this time around ahead of Parker Kligerman and Anthony Alfredo as they go back into turns 1 and 2. Flat traffic up ahead. Will he give way to let the leaders by? He will go to the bottom of the racetrack, continue on his way as the battle for the race lead still continues on. Kligerman to the outside, Kyle Busch to the inside as Anthony Alfredo pushes Kligerman off of 4.
Kyle Busch got tight again to the inside of Kligerman, and I wonder if he may suffer the same fate alongside Anthony Alfredo. Matthew Stolkenek beginning to make an appearance towards the very end of this race, just as he did 1 week ago at Talladega, working our way towards 5 laps to go in the TobyChristie.com 150.
Trouble for DJ Cummings, hit the wall entering turn 1. That now allows several drivers to try to get around him off of turn number 2 as Nick DeGroot and Gary Sexton make contact off down the back straightaway.
Everybody all over the place from about 5th on back. They have to start making moves if they want any shot of trying to get back to Parker Kligerman, who leads this field now with 6 laps to go as they cross the stripe. Alfredo second and Stolkenek alongside Kyle Busch for third.
As now Stolkenek will get that third position away from Kyle Busch as they dive it into turns 1 and 2. Gary Sexton on the move. He'll go to the inside of Nick DeGroot for the 7th position now as he sets his sights on Brendan Madonia for 6.
A lot of really good battling there. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 single file at the front, and Brendan Madonia making his charge underneath the 10 machine of DJ Cummings. Gary Sexton with a big one out of 4, and he'll go high. He might try and split the middle. Now to the inside goes Sexton to make it 3 wide for the spot.
From the top floor all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, Gary Sexton tried to make it work, but to no avail as Preston Pardis now gets involved. Remember, he got involved in a late incident. He's now back inside the top 6.
Kligerman, Alfredo, Stolkenek, Busch, DJ Cummings for the moment in 5th. 5 laps to go for the stripe for Parker Kligerman to try and pick up his first win of the season for Kligerman eSports in the Valvoline Toyota Tundra.
He's going to try everything that he can, but Anthony Alfredo in that number 21 is going to try everything he can to get around Parker Kligerman for the race lead as they go into turns 1 and 2. Single file for your top 4 as they come off turn 2. The next battle is going to be for that 5th position between DJ Cummings and Preston Pardis.
It's a great battle for the 5th spot. The problem is that group of cars, or trucks rather, has fallen off. It's about maybe 6-7 tenths of a second from the rear bumper of Kyle Busch to the front bumper of Preston Pardis. So no matter what happens, anybody from 5th on back will need a yellow flag, I think, at this rate in order to have any shot of winning this race as Kligerman is across the stripe. 3 laps to go.
How about Jeff Green and that number 30 now? He's just about to break into the top 10 right now as he's all over the back bumper of Nick DeGroot and Jesse Vaughn, along with the 11 of Steve Affan as well as they come off of turn number 2. A great battle back here for 10th.
Really good stuff further back as Alfredo is still just stalking the 77. He's not pulled the trigger yet, and I think the biggest issue for Alfredo is that damage that he picked up trying to stay off of Kligerman. It just doesn't seem like the 21 has the drive that it needs to get alongside Kligerman's Toyota Tundra. 2 laps to go now for the 77.
The 2 Toyotas, well, speaking of now, as Kyle Busch dives it to the inside of Matt Stolkenek to try to go side by side. Gets too tight, can't quite make the pass work as he'll slide back in behind Matt Stolkenek in 4th.
Kyle Busch, I think, just about out of tires and just about out of time. It's Anthony Alfredo versus Parker Kligerman for the win in the TobyChristie.com 150. White flag this time by.
One more shot for Anthony Alfredo to take the win away from Parker Kligerman as they come across the line. White flag is in the air. Down into turn one for the final time. Can Anthony Alfredo have anything for that 77 Valvoline Toyota Tundra?
Is there any sort of lunge Alfredo can make? He tried it a little bit in 1 and 2. He might have one more shot in 3 and 4, but that truck has been tight since he bounced off the fence about 6 or 7 laps ago as Kyle Busch goes to the inside of Matthew Stallknecht. Anthony Alfredo tries to make one more big lunge, but it'll tighten up out of 4, and it won't be enough as Westport, Connecticut's Parker Kligerman comes across the line to win the TobyChristie.com 150 and pick up his 4th career victory in Monday night racing competition, his first in a truck, and that 4th win puts him 2nd all-time in the winner's record book behind Nick DeGroot, the season 1 champion. The first one of the season for Parker Kligerman, who gets a congratulatory bump from Kyle Busch, but a really strong race from Parker all night long, who had to do a lot to control the field from the front, but control the field from the front for the most part, he did.
He certainly did. Definitely one of the most dominant trucks out there tonight. Pretty much led the most laps, of course, as we look at the timing and scoring, and a great run indeed for that number 77 Valvoline Toyota Tundra, as well as Anthony Alfredo. A great strong run debut night for him here in the Monday Night Racing Series here. So we'll have to wait and see what else he can do as the season progresses.
We'll see what happens as Monday Night Racing progresses throughout 2020 and 2021, but at this time we'll go ahead and watch Parker Kligerman burn it down just a little bit on the front straightaway. You weren't necessarily certain he was going to try and burn it down for the fans, or I suppose our virtual fans in attendance here. Certainly more than we could have in real life at this stage, but more racing than we could have in real life too here, since it is the off season, and iRacing, a good opportunity for these drivers to flex their muscles and their driving ability. So it's a big win, a big moment for sure for Parker Kligerman, who celebrates on the front straightaway and burns it down. And as he burns it down, we'll take a moment to go through the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Kligerman, your winner tonight, ahead of Anthony Alfredo. Matthew Stallknecht finished in the 3rd spot. 4th went to the 51 of Kyle Busch. Preston Pardish came home in the 5th spot. 6th went to the 13 of Gary Sexton. Brendan Bedelia was 7th at the end of the evening. 8th to the 30 of Jeff Green. DJ Cummings in the 10th truck with another strong run. He finishes 9th. And the defending champion, Nick DeGroot, 2 top 10s in his first 2 races this season. He comes home in 10th.
Jesse Vaughn will come home in the 11th position, followed by a big run for Steve Affont. Started 36th, finishes 12th tonight, so a great run for him. Maxwell Kennan will come home in 13th, followed by Ford Martin in 14th. 5th goes to Seth Eggert, or 15th goes to Seth Eggert, followed by Roger Diebold in 16th. Kyle McFadden will come home in the 17th position, followed by Robbie Lyons in 18th. Stephen Ellis will come home in the 19th position, followed by CJ McLaughlin, rounding out your top 20.
21st was Rob D'Amico at the end of the evening. Jason Keffer finished in 22nd. 23rd went to the 26 of Chris Wilner, and Drew Welker was 24th. 25th was the 37 of Paul Sutton. Mark Rabilas finished in 26th. The last truck on the lead lap was the 28 of Ron Capps. He finished in 27th. 28th went to Noah Lewis. 29th to Michael Massey, and the 81 of Joe Agee finished in 30th.
Brett Baldeck will come home in 31st, followed by Michael Rossi in 32nd. 33rd goes to Joshua Slate, who had a tough night for him tonight, with Joshua Balicki in 34th. 35th goes to Garrett Miller, followed by Will Rogers in 36th. 37th, Greg Stump, and 38th, Chris Rice. Rounding out your 39-car field was disqualified Jerry Jordan.
And that concludes your full field rundown for tonight's TobyChristie.com 150, the 2nd race of the season for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. We're now joined by Parker Kligerman in the booth. And Parker, we'll look at the stats tonight, and they will say that by the numbers, you dominated this race. You led more laps than anybody else. You were out front more than anybody else. But I think just with the way this package runs, it was a lot tougher for you than I think a lot of people would recognize if they just look at the numbers, because yes, you were out front all night, but there was constantly someone trying to chase you down. You never really could get away from anyone. And in that sense, how difficult is it to control a field with the trucks at a 1.5 mile track like Las Vegas, just with the way the package plays out?
You had it right. It's incredibly difficult because the way the draft works, there's huge runs, but you got to temper yourself, and then the tires fall off a ton. You're also running the outside lane because it just seems to be where the trucks have the most grip, so they can always dive the inside of you. But awesome race there with Anthony Alfredo and Kyle Busch and this whole Monday Night Racing League. That was a hell of a battle those last 12 or 13 laps. I mean, that was cool. I wish it was that easy in real life to beat Kyle Busch, but it's just not. It's for whatever reason, he's got the leg up there. So I enjoyed that. It was cool knowing I could hold him off for once and beat him in a straight up fight. But I'm gonna know that's probably a very rare experience of mine. But a lot of fun.
We can quantify just how rare. That's the first loss that Kyle Busch has taken in a race in the truck at this particular track, real life or virtual, since he started running in 2018 in the Truck Series here. So you are responsible for being the first man to beat KB at this track in this combo. That I have to believe that's got to be fun a little bit.
That's quite an honor. I was actually thinking about texting him before we went green on that last restart and be like, hey, man. So we pulled down my Henderson Motorsports trucks at his shop all the time. And I was going to be like, hey, why don't we just slap a 75 on one of those KBM trucks? Let's take one of those for a ride if I beat you. But I don't think it's that easy. But yeah, that's cool. I love that. That's awesome. So a lot of fun. Good job by Ford Martin for putting this on. Hopefully everyone watching enjoyed that. That was a cool fight. And that's one of the most enjoyable, straight up battles I've had in iRacing in a long time. So that was a lot of fun.
Another nugget for you. You go to second on the all-time win list in Monday Night Racing with 4 victories now across this season and last, A. And then B, we talk about combos that might be a little bit in your wheelhouse. IndyCar, Twin Ring Motegi. You're one of 2 drivers to have won an IndyCar race in Monday Night Racing before. So can we expect something fun out of you next Monday night, perhaps?
I don't know. I don't know. The last time I won an IndyCar race, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how did that happen? And that was at Indy. It was awesome. But I know nothing about Twin Wing Motegi other than the shape and have watched it on TV. So I don't think I've ever run a lap there in iRacing. But I look forward to it. If I get invited back and show up, I think that'll be a lot of fun. So hopefully we can continue this streak. I think last time we went 3 in a row last season. And we were going for 4 in a row and lost that. So maybe I can pick up where I left off and try and get to that 4 in a row.
There was a bounty that was placed on Parker after he ripped off the win streak he got in the middle of the Monday Night Racing season last year. So we may see the revival of the bounty next week. But for now, we'll say congratulations, Parker, on your victory tonight. And thanks for jumping up in the booth to chat with us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the great job you do. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the broadcast. And I got to give a shout out to Valvoline. Had them on board, of course. And this win was powered by them. So enjoyed it.
Parker Caligami, your race winner tonight in the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas. Second tonight was a man very familiar to the booth at Podium Esports. We've seen him call races in the Esports Racing League. Got to race tonight and put together a good finish in his Esports Racing League Chevy Silverado. Anthony Alfredo joins Taylor Burris.
Here with the Fast Pasta, Anthony Alfredo coming home second tonight. Anthony, you had a very interesting race, a tight battle with Parker Caligami for the entirety of this race. How was the track out there for you?
It was fun. It was definitely challenging with how tight the racing was tonight at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. In the trucks, you're wide open for the majority of the run, especially when you're in clean air. And I was doing my best to maintain the track position there. Kyle Busch and I actually had a mistake there. I was just following him. I didn't realize we passed the pace car, had to let it by, and him and I both missed pit road. So we rebounded from that, got back up towards the front, and we're racing for the lead most of the night. Had an awesome battle with Parker and Kyle again at the end of the race, but just came up one spot short. I really wanted to come in and race against these guys and try to beat them because I had a blast last season, and unfortunately I missed last week's race at Talladega, but I should be good the rest of the season to run every week, so we'll have more shots to get a win. Tonight was a great confidence booster. I think I just wore my right front tire out too much on the last run, and it was really difficult to turn the truck. In the lead, I was okay, and Parker pulled that slider on me with 5 to go in 1 and 2, and I knew I couldn't lift, otherwise he'd clear me, and I ended up tagging the outside wall just enough to where it bogged me down, didn't really do any damage, and lost the lead. And in dirty air, I was just too tight. It was too difficult to turn. So that was unfortunate, but we still salvaged a top 3 finish, and I'm proud of that in my first race of the season in the Monday Night Racing League. And I just want to thank you guys for broadcasting, and of course Ford and everyone behind the league for putting it on. It's always a great time, and I hope we put on an awesome show for the fans.
Now the next question is, heading to IndyCars next week at Twin Ring Motegi, how confident do you feel about taking on the open wheels?
I'm actually more confident than I think I would have initially thought, and the reason for that is because I've been racing a lot of different things on iRacing lately. There's pretty much every discipline of racing on the service, and I've taken advantage of that lately to become a better driver, a more well-rounded sim racer, so to speak, and I'm hoping that works for me in this series. I was just telling my stream viewers tonight how we go to all these different, or face all these different car and track combos. So in order to win the championship in the league, you need to be more well-rounded and able to run competitively in all these different race events, rather than just hoping, when we go for myself, NASCAR racing, or for some of these other guys, rally car racing or IndyCar racing. So to be well-rounded on the surface, I'm hoping is going to work in my favor and hopefully benefit us.
Certainly is. Well, before we let you go, anybody you'd like to say thank you to and go and celebrate this podium finish here tonight?
Yeah, definitely. All the Sauce Mafia, all my fans who support me and tuned into my stream to watch my POV, and everyone who watched the official broadcast of the event. I'm looking forward to the next one. I had some members of Lockdown Racing helping crew chief and spot tonight as well. So with their help, I'm confident we could get a win this season and hopefully run for a title.
All right, that is Anthony Alfredo driving that number 21 Chevy Silverado coming home P2, and James Pike has caught up with Kyle Busch coming home in P4.
Kyle Busch backs up his victory last week at Talladega with a 4th place run tonight on home turf. And Kyle, this was a bit of a different Vegas race by your standards, just because you had to make that deep charge from the field after those early incidents in the faster pairs. And by extension, how was that, just having to climb through the field instead of being traditionally more towards the front like we're used to seeing you here?
I mean, it was all right. It was just, we had that first yellow that came out. Myself and Alfredo ran away to go find the pace car. Talladega, the pace car comes out at 130 miles an hour, and this week was a little bit different. So we didn't know to check up and get back, and then those guys all pitted, so we were essentially hung out on old tires, and that kind of got me back in the field, got me back in, some of the other guys that don't have as much experience and just aren't ready for the close action that we had going on back there.
We talked a little bit with Parker about just how difficult it is to separate yourself with this particular package and this track car combo, that you can lead and you can throw down a lot of laps and rack up the laps led column if you want, but you're never really going to be able to get away from anybody. By extension, it means that the difference between great drivers and maybe some lesser drivers is not going to be all that obvious here. So since you have so much experience, how tight is it, and how little are those tiny differences in the way you run the truck here at Vegas that separate the best of the best from the rest of the field?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences. There at the end, I was trying to pull a slide job on Matt, who was running third, and get in front of him getting into turn 3 and just see what I could do on the exit, but I could never even get even close to clear of him, and normally in real life, I think you could get a little bit farther along. And also I think the tire fall off is a bit different, so you just kind of have to take care of those. Kligerman's one of the best at it. I remember watching an iRace during quarantine where he was at Atlanta with a bunch of really, really good other iRacers. I think William Byron was even in that one, and he was just driving away from the field on the long run. So he's definitely one of the best at being able to protect the right front and make sure he has long run speed. So trying to follow him a little bit and do the same things he was doing. But man, that when that bottom's open, it's so appetizing to get down there and try to make moves, but you just get too bogged up and too slow down there to get anything done. But hard to make big charges or moves on guys because everybody's really, really similar.
We lead the NASCAR world that we've been in for the first 2 weeks of the season. Next Monday night, IndyCar's at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. The iRacing IndyCar Challenge back in April that the real-life IndyCar stars ran on was a show and a half. Do you expect the same for the Monday Night Racing crowd when we go to Japan next Monday night?
Oh, heck yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I feel like I'm a little bit ahead on that one because I ran that race last year with the IndyCar guys. So it's going to be fun. Those cars are a lot different. There's a lot different things that you learn over time driving the little different cars that you do. So I'm excited that each week is something different. So that's kind of fun for me.
Should be a lot of fun to see the whole of Monday Night Racing go after it in Japan next Monday night. But Kyle, thanks as always for the time, and congratulations on the top 5 tonight.
Awesome. Thanks. See y'all.
Kyle Busch comes home P4 this evening. P3, another solid finish for Matt Stallknecht out of NASCAR, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Coming home P3, Matt Stallknecht coming home with a strong finish in that number 41 Toyota Tundra. Matt, tell us about your race a little bit, of how the track conditions were for you, as well as battling with Kyle Busch towards the end of that race.
Yeah, super fun battle there with Kyle. That's 2 weeks in a row. We've really found each other late in the race and had a really, really awesome run. So appreciate that one from him, and good battling up front with not only just him, but also Anthony and Parker and DJ and all those guys up front all race long. So really, it's for the race itself. Just a big time track position battle all night long. It felt like super, super tough to, keep that track position with just how hard it was to pass. And, I think for us, it was really all about just trying to make sure you didn't kill your tires and stay in the top lane. And if you were able to keep your tires underneath you and you were able to keep the top lane rolling, really it was just a matter of somebody in front of you making a mistake. So we were fortunate to make some good moves and got some really good restarts there. And we're able to get some clean air late in the run, and we're able to battle with Kyle and came out P3. So super happy with it.
Now the question is, we head to the Indy cars at Twin Ring Motegi. How confident do you feel about taking on those cars there?
Yeah, I do feel pretty confident. I think if there's a few of us, I know Nick DeGroot's really good there in the Indy car, but I've done a lot of ranked races on iRacing in the Dallara. So I definitely feel cautiously comfortable is probably the way I would describe it. I think it's probably going to be another race of attrition, just with fast repairs and so many cars probably on the racetrack, and a lot of us not being super familiar with Motegi. So I feel pretty good, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, Matt, before we let you go, anybody else you would like to say thank you to before we let you go and celebrate this podium finish?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously want to thank, family and friends back home. I know my dad is watching, as well as my girlfriend and her brother. So really love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Definitely also want to thank my spotter, Connor Harrington. He was a huge help tonight. Up on top of the box, making good pit calls and helping guide me through some chaos in the racetrack. And also want to thank my graphic designer, Harris Liu, for just whipping up these awesome eNASCAR schemes. He's also did DJ Cummings paint schemes as well. And selfishly, I think they're the best looking cars on the racetrack. So I want to thank all those guys and anybody else that tuned in, and really awesome league. And obviously want to thank the creators for putting this awesome league together with some great names.
Of course, that is Matt Stallknecht coming home in P3 here tonight. James?
So, there's Las Vegas for you, done and dusted. A very entertaining TobyChristie.com 150. And largely, I think, what we expected coming into tonight. A lot of 2x2 racing. Everybody started to slide up the racetrack as the tires wore off. We saw that outside groove come in about 10 to 15 laps into a green flag run. We saw people try and go for it on the bottom, but burn off the tires, as Kyle Busch alluded to in his interview post-race. And at the end of the day, a really good battle, solid racing that is the hallmark of what you see in iRacing, and Parker Kligerman, a winner alongside Kyle Busch to start off season 2.
Certainly was, and we saw a lot of great close racing action throughout the field tonight. Of course, the main focus was up towards the front of the field, towards the top 5, but if you go a little further back around the top 10, top 15, there was also some great battles we saw through there. So overall, a great, exciting race for the trucks here at Las Vegas, and that just only is the tip of the iceberg of what's to come throughout the rest of the season. A lot of people looking forward to heading to Twin Ring Motegi with the Indy cars.
Open wheel racing for the first time in season 2, when we get at it next Monday night with the IndyCar from Twin Ring Motegi. It is a personal favorite track of mine in iRacing, and the IndyCars have been tremendous shows when we've seen them run in Monday Night Racing in season 1. If there's anything we learned about what we saw in season 1 with the IndyCars, it's that it will be a 200+ mile an hour showcase of speed at that oval in Japan next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/Podium2, or the Monday Night Racing Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. wherever you consume your iRacing events, we will be there. A few events, though, coming up over the course of the next week in iRacing to tell you about before we sign off. First and foremost, the road to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for 2021 continues tomorrow night with round 2. The 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Auto Club Speedway. It's the best of the best in sim racing, trying to claw their way back into the Coke Series or enter the Coke Series for the first time in NASCAR Xfinity Series card. You'll see that broadcast tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium eSports. Wednesday night, we go dirt racing with the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Lanier National Raceway. That's November 25th, 9 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Podium2 or Podium's Facebook or YouTube or Twitter if you're so inclined to tune in. Alex Hayden from the Motor Racing Network will be on that broadcast. And then next Monday night, the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge continues with round number 3 for the road course at Iowa Speedway at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the main Podium eSports Twitch channel before we're back in action with round 3 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring with the IndyCar at Twin Ring Motegi. Should be a tremendous amount of fun all week long as the off-season slate of iRacing continues. It is time for us to say goodbye from the TobyChristie.com 150 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the second race of the season for Monday Night Racing. But if you are on Twitch, stay tuned because we're going to go and raid our good friend Rents Brown at Rents the Fence. It's going to be where we send you off to in just a few moments. For everybody else, we'll let you sign off, although I highly recommend heading over to Rentz's Twitch channel if you want to see some more iRacing action. He's always good for some fantastic car and track combos, much like you see in Monday Night Racing. But for Ford Martin and Paul Sutton at Monday Night NASCAR, for Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium eSports, for our producer Ryan Bauer, and for my partner in the booth, Taylor Burrish, I am James Punt, the voice of Podium eSports. Thank you so much for watching Podium's coverage of the TobyChristie.com 150, the second race of the season for Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. We look forward to seeing you next Monday night from Japan with the Indy cars. For those of you on Twitch, we now send it over to Rents the Fence.